thoughts on map. What are your thoughts on comp?
Composition, if it's Nepal, they can definitely run the Wrecking Ball comp, which is going to be that Wrecking Ball Tracer working as a dynamic duo with a Cassidy, Brigida, Zenyatta, or even a Mercy over the Brigida working as a core group, and Mercy just kind of flying around keeping people alive. That can also work on Oasis. Additionally, if we go into Lijiang Tower, most likely going to see a Wall and Maul comp or an absolutely spam-heavy composition centered around having a Sigma instead. But that really depends on which person we have in on tank first. If we have Matt Merck on tank, most likely going to see Wrecking Ball no matter what, even if it is Lijiang Tower, unless it's Control Center. And then if we're any other map, it could go anyway. We've seen Clear on tank. We've seen Kel on tank today as well. He posted up on the Sigma and the Reinhardt and gave us some fabulous Reinhardt plays. Unfortunately, did not get player of the game earlier in the broadcast, so maybe this time he can get those. And hopefully if they're looking to get player of the game, these players can actually follow Doc's keys of the game for Overwatch, which are brought to us by Drop In Gaming. Never take a fair fight, which means take fights in unexpected places when they're unprepared, and tempo, tempo, tempo. Drop In Gaming is the premier online platform for gamers seeking competition. Play your favorite games to win cash and prizes through free and paid entry matches and tournaments. Whether you're new to the scene or a seasoned veteran, Drop In Gaming has the right games and competition for you. To begin your competitive journey, sign up at dropingaming.com. In addition to Doc's keys, we also might have a sneak peek at who's in the lineup, which could give us a hint as to at least what composition we'll be rolling out on, because we have Kel, Lyric, Goblin, Chosen, and Bagel. So we have 3 of our support players in. Theoretically speaking, we might see Chosen on DPS. We could see Lyric on DPS. Oh, nope, it is Plato on DPS, not Lyric. So pretty much a standard comp rollout. We have Kel most likely tank, and then Goblin, Plato on DPS, Chosen, and Bagel on the support lineup. Today's lineup is brought to you by Count. Count Identity, Trust Global Network, delivers real-time fraud prevention, account protection, and enables personalized customer experiences from more than 9,000 leading brands. We can see most of the team is on stage, ready and warmed up. Kel is smiling, talking to Plato. They're the 2 in the hoodies because, of course, they are the troublemakers. I mean, they're roommates. They're always troublemakers.
They're the troublemakers that don't follow the dress code.
I mean, they could just be cold. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say they're chilly.
Chilly in this room with these lights? Impossible.
And those machines, they get very warm. But with that being said, I have no idea what map we're going to start out on. If Kel's on tank, I theoretically end up anticipating it's going to be Lijiang. But I don't know.
Yes, it was Lijiang. Yes, we did see that later.
Okay, thank goodness.
And then we're seeing King's Row in the background
right now.
Yeah, it is Lijiang. There we go.
All right, that's fabulous. So yes, we're going to have Kel on tank. It's really going to be map dependent. Which sub-map we get determines which one he's on. But he ran it down on Ryan pretty hard earlier today. I anticipate seeing it again.
Of course, and we even saw Goblin swap over to the tank role too, so we might get to see a little bit of that. And I think Gob usually runs at it with the Reinhardt, which could be interesting.
It would be weird to see him on Ryan now because he's been favoring JQ. On Route 66, Goblin went JQ. He was unstoppable, denying dives left and right. I love to see it. We all know here, if you're familiar with Goblin, that he never runs anything that's considered standard.
Oh. Why would you? There's so many heroes in the game.
Like, when we saw Goblin on tank, it was like, okay. And then we looked and we're like, is that a JQ? That is a JQ. And he made it work, which I was totally fine with. It's just, if we have Goblin on tank, I have no idea what we're expecting on Lijiang Tower. I'm just going to be blunt. I don't know. Like, it could be absolutely anything. He could just try to force Diva, which would absolutely get eviscerated. Poor Toki's going to be on respawn 100% of the time. But we'll have to wait and see what they decide on. We're going to have some great cinematic view here of all the sub-maps. Started out on Garden, this is Control Center, and then we'll be able to see Night Market after we're done with Control Center. Hopefully we start on Garden, because we didn't see that earlier today, but that is me asking the gods of the games for the favor that they don't typically provide. And Lyric actually got play of the game here. 99% mark, booped 2 off the map, and then ran in and deleted a Reinhardt. It was quite nice to see.
Just as we kind of like wait to get in here, do you think the Sojourn Mercy duo is still as strong as it kind of was in the beginning of the game, or do you think the Mercy changes or the overall patches have kind of changed the relevance of that duo?
It has changed the relevance. I mean, Sojourn doesn't get as much of a buff from having a Mercy pocket anymore as she used to. Plus, she has such utility when it comes to getting out and staying alive. Like, yes, the slow orb now just does damage, so it's just a damage on the ground like a Molly almost in Valorant. But the slide, saving that for when you need to get out of bad situations, makes Sojourn no longer really need a Mercy pocket as long as you time your utility properly. You don't show your cards in front of someone and be like, I'm going to slide to get in position right in front of your face. Instead, you are already in position and you wait for them to engage on you, and then you back off and wait for your team to take care of the rest of it. So I doubt we'll see a Mercy Sojourn pocket. If we do... I worry about these players.
I think someone needs a Band-Aid back there. I heard the ow with my headset on.
Very audible ow. There are things under the desk that we typically hit our knees on. I hit one on this one right here all the time. But I don't think we'll see that Sojourn Mercy pocket as frequently. If we do, it's literally just because we're trying to keep the Soj alive because they're getting dove so frequently and playing Respawn Simulator rather than playing Overwatch.
And then what do you think about, is the Cassidy Mercy the important duo? We were talking a little bit beforehand about kind of support combos, and if you're running that Wrecking Ball, you run your Cassidy to keep your Zenyatta alive, and then the Mercy just kind of bounces back and forth.
Yes, if we are anticipating that they're not going to be playing a dive-heavy comp and it's going to be spam v spam, you can pull out the Mercy, and you can pocket that Cassidy from dusk till dawn. Honestly, Cassidy had some major changes. He's a very viable pick again. And plus, the tactical role doing damage reduction means that if you are losing health and you're getting dove, you roll out of the way, your Mercy's pocketing you, you go under 50%, that extra buff that they gave to the Mercy charge on healing for that is huge. And it actually looks like we're starting out on Night Market. Actually at night, we're not having the daytime map, so it makes sense. And possibly Broncos rolling out on Reinhardt here. We'll have to wait and see who's on which side, but it's going to be Ryan v. Ryan anyway. TP went up from Utah State. They're locking down with a standard Symmetra comp.
It looks like the Boise State is choosing to go with the Mercy Sojourn. We see that right now. We kind of see Mercy keeping Kel up as Kel is looking to engage through these doorways, but it's just taking so much damage. He's kind of got to back out a little bit, especially now that he's stuck. Just back up, wait for the triage, Mercy heals, and we now are over on Goblin on the Widowmaker.
Goblin picking Widow over the Torbjorn we saw earlier today. Definitely a formidable opponent, but you have to find the right angle to get these picks. Plato goes down, but they did find Cats, so we're equalized. Unfortunately, as I say that, I cast a curse and Kel goes down. Warrior picking up a two-piece, and that means the Broncos are just going to have to play for space control.
And it looks like Bagel's kind of peeking around looking for some cheeky ult charge where he knows people can't hit him, getting those turrets in, which will let his team engage easier later.
Unfortunately, Bagel just trying to play in mid to keep Reinhardt alive. It's not really the best option. We do see that we have Chosen swapping off of that Mercy in favor of the Baptiste. Lucio Mercy can work. Being in a Brawl-style comp means that there's just not enough healing to go around, and they have to break through the Symmetra. Half car wash since Overwatch 1 of the adjustments that were made, but nonetheless, we have an Immortality as well as Epoch dropping the Ant Matrix, meaning it's buying more time as they lose their Symmetra.
Ooh, the Rhines counter-starring each other, and then this kind of looks like Kel's trying to go in. As soon as he does, immediately goes down with the Immortality field, and then Goblin gets picked out as Boise State now down 1, as Plato gets an elimination now down 2 before Plato themselves gets taken out by Rose Dog. And the fight resets as Bagel tries and just barely by the skin of his teeth fails to get out.
And we have Goblin swapping over to the Bastion, deciding to go see if he can just damage down and burst the shield of this Reinhardt. Hopefully we don't lose Kel too early. Kel is under half health. They're going to need a little bit of love from their supports. Going into turret mode, we have Goblin pushing forward, not doing any damage whatsoever to that shield. Tries to pick up the back, gets shattered. As Kel unfortunately had their shield down, he goes to half health. Wall goes up from the Symmetra. Kel goes down from Cats, and we're going to have Cats try to egress forward and possibly take over the space here from the Sojourn, but it is choosing to hang back.
I think the fight was won when the Shatter hit, and then on the Bastion and the Reinhardt, that was just kind of, there wasn't really a whole lot Boise State could do to recover from that, as Bagel is kind of picked last in this fight. I do think the wall was maybe a little bit of an overcommit there, so I think that should work in Boise State's favor here, as now that is another resource that Utah State cannot throw at them, as we pop the Sojourn ultimate, immediately picking Epoch on the Baptiste.
We do lose Kel, and unfortunately no one got a foothold on that point, so Utah State wins. First sub-map here on Night Market, 100% to 0, but the Broncos' spirits are not broken whatsoever. You can hear them cheering in the background. I know our headsets don't pick it up, but we can hear it through our headphones most definitely. Now we're going on to Gardens, the ever so infamous Lucio boop map, where we had our very own Bagel get a 4-man boop off the map that resulted in a highlight that NECC uses to this day. Hopefully Utah State anticipates that and we don't see the standard rollout into the window with the Sim TP.
It looks like we have a Pharah, so we'll be seeing what kind of support that Pharah will be getting in the air. Currently, it looks like that maybe Ana Lucio? No, it's Kiriko Lucio. Boise State is definitely trying to get in there, do some damage. It looks like that's a hard dive comp as well with the Monkey.
Going to be interesting to see how this Pharah lives throughout the entire engage here, because you got to remember that it's heal over time from, and they did the standard window TP, but the Broncos weren't there in time to do anything about it. However, Billy Spike does go down. We do hear the magnetic grenade get dropped. Goblin, Cal, Plato all picking up one. Plato cleaning up Rose Dog, and that's going to be a reset for the side of Utah State.
Boise State says, you know, we lost that last map. We're here with a completely new strategy. strategy, dancing on the point after a pretty clean fight win. And it looks like as the Broncos are kind of resetting, because they won that fight so cleanly, they're almost double Utah State's current ult charge.
The funny part is that we had a double hit scan swap. Cats did immediately go back to Tracer after trying to take a cheeky shot from spawn onto Goblin, showing just how worried they are about this Pharah, who doesn't even have a Zen Orb, no Mercy Beam, nothing, relying on Aura from Lucio and slow-moving Fuda from their Kiriko. One thing that Pharah does provide, though, is a get-out-of-jail-free card for a Kiriko to just jump to them in the air and use the heal over time without taking damage to survive. As Epoch, the Brigida, goes down, Plato also sent back to spawn.
Okay, pretty good trade, though, for the main support, and then we do see Billy Spike get moved off the map. That is huge for Boise State here, as they're only down Plato. It looks like Kel's going to have to disengage, kind of regain some HP, and then it looks like Goblin's going to take Cats down with a direct rocket hit, and Bagel's going to lose the 1v1 against the Ryan on point. But Goblin has shown up with 2 HP in a dream, it looks like, just to stay out of that Reinhardt's range and wait for the rest of the Broncos to come to point, which they do. Chosen winning the Battle of the Kirikos, and Plato unfortunately being sent back to spawn again.
The Brigida is what's going to be the most determining factor here. Respawn, recall forced out from the Tracer. That Brig just providing that extra shield. We have Chosen use Swift Step to get out of the way, and we have Primal Rage on point. Broncos, though, staggering, have been able to maintain control. We have Kitsune Rush online from Chosen, but it looks like they're going to give up the fight. Unfortunately, Suzu dropped too late. Rocket Barrage from Goblin, gonna play cleanup crew, and the Broncos are gonna be able to flip this back in their favor.
Only giving up 8% there because of a little bit of a too far backup, but Boise State can easily afford to give up that 12 because there's 67 in the lead here, and it looks like Warriors kind of trying to find a way in, get some shots onto Plato. Those Helix rockets are unfortunately going to whiff as both teams kind of reset, lick their wounds. Boise State needs to be looking out for that visor, I think, most next fight.
Hopefully someone is tracking ultimates and is prepared to play the counter. Either Plato hit that overclock or just uses a rail shot onto a Soldier 76, but they will have the Kitsune Rush with it, which can make that Soldier Visor very difficult to handle. Plato over-engaged and ends up getting punished. Disengaged here from the Broncos after popping that Sound Berry. They also have Kitsune Rush. There it is, playing for the retake as they take out Break. There's the Attack Visor and Kitsune. Tied on ultimates. Who's going to get the first pick?
It looks like first pick's going to go into Goblin, but immediately after that, Chosen cleans up Warrior themselves, so it looks like this is Chosen and Kel on point, just against the solo Reinhardt, and unfortunately, we salute you for a valiant effort, but Boise State looks like they're going to flip this point, just barely not there, as they now have to chase down a Lucio.
That does stagger out the Lucio, the final touch, who touched, I think, slightly too soon. Reaper was going to try and teleport, realized there's no time left. Cats decided to just take a dip with the fishes.
So I think Boise State kind of adjusting their strategy to the dive comp, I think that really helped them out in the end. They were able to pick the engagements. And I want to particularly highlight Kel getting into fights and immediately getting out of them when they needed help as well. Kel's like, all right, I know when to be in, I know when to be out.
It's really important for people to remember that you also do technically have an S key. If you're low and your supports aren't with you, hitting it is very powerful. Also, Goblin never once swapped off the Pharah despite there being double hit scans pulled out at different points in time to try to do things to him, which either shows that he's not scared or shaking in his boots whatsoever, or someone is missing their shots.
You know, not being afraid could be the product of somebody not hitting their shots.
That is also valid.
So I do think that it is both there. I think Goblin would have swapped off the Pharah if they were challenged more, but it just kind of, unless, up until the Soldier Visor, Goblin was pretty uncontested as both of these are, as both teams are back on Reinhardt. We see Kel going half HP there. Epoch is the first one to fall. That is a massive advantage in Boise State's favor. They're going to be looking to go in. We see Kel approaching the point, holding shield. Bagel is there to speed him and heal him as necessary. It looks like the remaining members of Boise State are rotating to point, where these two teams are going to take the fight.
Boise State did a slight change from what we saw earlier. Originally, they did speed boost out and keep the Symmetra. This time, they chose to let it go and instead have the Plato Sojourn with that Goblin on May, which worked out successfully last time, but they over-engaged and did not count respawn, so they're going to have to be forced back to point. And we hear someone screaming for the Lucio on our squad. Bagel unfortunately can't just keep people alive. You only have an aura.
Looks like we're going to destroy that trap. And Boise State has won the point, 14% and climbing as they wait for Utah State to approach them. We kind of see the Reinhardt shield getting a little bit weak there as Goblin is just spamming into them with the May, hoping for a headshot. But that Junkrat is trying to fight for control of the control room there as the teleporter is going to get almost destroyed by Plato.
Amplification Matrix forces the Reinhardt to back off and just conserve shield. Junkrat trying to get some chip damage. Wall goes up. It's wall and maul time. Counter stun from the other. Reinhardt, no one gets cleaned up. Epoch drops the Ignore and Amp Matrix in response. May will drop their own Ultimate Blizzard on site, is going to clean up one. Can they clean up Rose Dog? They should be able to. Reinhardt, you are the last bastion right now, and you are getting the Overwatch treatment, but the Immortality Field gets dropped and keeps our Force Shattered May alive.
It feels bad when you go to Solar Shatter somebody and don't even get the elimination because of a well-placed Immortality Field. Rose Dog, that is a feels bad, but you're 7% to your next opportunity to try a solo Shatter.
I do question the Shatter as a last-ditch effort when you're last man standing on a point, but nonetheless, we all do that sometimes. You gotta flex the ego and just be at least I can Shatter. When you do see Rose Dog actually swapping over to the Sigma, trying to counter the spam coming out from the side of Boise State, even though having that made just the icicles are the spam, but we have Cats going for a sneaky fire. Chosen, sent to the Shadow Realm.
And immediately the sound barrier in response for Boise State. It looks like Warrior is going to be forced to back up because of that wall that splits their team there. Kel just getting burned by that level 3 beam. Bagel says, running away, I am out, goodbye. It looks like Boise State is still up this fight, even though we lost our main healer. It looks like that was a major beat that kept Boise State in the fight, and now they're kind of forced to back off a little bit, get healed up by Baptiste, and then re-engage.
It was huge of Bagel to actually pull that much attention from that Symmetra, because Sim is your biggest damage dealer in that moment. With everyone splitting their attention, the core unit of the Broncos just deleted everyone else. Time to see what the play of the game is. Not sure who got it, but it looks like it's Plato yet again.
I want to say this is probably... It looks like this is not the overclock, just kind of taking out some turrets we see, and then definitely putting some worthy damage in on Billy Spike there, though not officially showing up in the kill feed for it. Then there's Warrior and Rose Dog as well. They were part of the 4 clear on the point.
That is his second play of the game of the day. I think we could show some love to some other players. I mean, I'm asking an algorithm to do this for me.
Are you ready to fight the algorithm?
I am. I feel like we need to show at least some more tank play, but we didn't see any fatty shatters in that game, which kind of hurt my heart a little bit. We saw one shatter that was a solo shatter that was on a May with an Immort.
You're forgetting the fatty shatter for the side of Utah State.
Yes.
Onto Kel and Gob on Reinhardt and Bastion. It's always big when you manage to land the enemy Reinhardt in your shatter, but especially getting the Bastion after that. That fight was won as soon as the hammer went down.
That is very true, and we are actually going to give a quick reminder about Doc's keys to the game and how important they are to playing Overwatch. For Doc's keys, brought to us by Drop In Gaming. Their take fights in unexpected places when they are unexpected, and tempo, tempo, tempo. Please don't respond to tempo with saying that you're going to play Ramatra, because just because devs call it a tempo tank doesn't mean that's how you control tempo.
Tempo's a group effort.
It is most definitely a group effort. And Doc's keys are presented to us today by Drop In Gaming. Drop In Gaming is the premier online platform for gamers who seek competition. Play your favorite games to win cash and prizes through free and paid entry matches and tournaments. Whether you're new to the scene or a seasoned veteran, Drop In Gaming has the right games and competition for you. To begin your competitive journey, sign up at dropingaming.com. I cannot tell you how many times I have heard someone say, I'm going to play the tempo tank. Hi, Kel. And it's made me want to cry.
And it's made you want to cry.
Because it's like, I understand that they built this kit around trying to teach people what tempo control is.
As if Lucio doesn't exist.
Right? As if Lucio doesn't exist. As if other tanks don't exist that can control tempo. There is an ebb and flow. It's a sine wave that you just have to make sure you're using the cooldowns at the right times, and not everyone's just dumping them randomly. Tempo is not based around one hero, one composition. It's based around team communication. And I wish that was a Doc's key that we used to. I was an old key in the game, but it isn't anymore.
Because you know what? You want to know what they call tempo when it's just one person? Typically, we call that feeding.
Yes. Ooh, we have a new map. Well, not a new map. One we haven't seen in a decent chunk of time. We're going to go to Eichenwald for our hybrid map. I'm excited for this. We could see some different things than what we saw today, which was a lot of Wrecking Ball comp, lots of Reinhardt. If Goblin is on tank, we'll see JQ. I almost promise you that much. Am I praying we don't see that? Yes, because I don't think it's going to work that well on Ike. Would he make it work? Somehow, magically, yes.
Like the Pharah against the double hit scan somehow made it work. And
no pocket, no Harmony Orb, just
nothing, just living off of Lucio healing in a dream.
Yep, it's like, nah, I got this, I'm good. I mean, when you're dealing with someone who's that confident on a hero, you need to respond. You can't just let them have free range like that.
Definitely, and it feels like the hit scan were more focused on the ground battle and more focused on kind of negating the on-the-ground threat that was Plato. And they just kind of forgot about the Pharah in the air with absolutely little to no support.
Like, don't get me wrong, Plato is scary too.
Yeah.
But a Pharah that doesn't take any damage is also very scary.
We saw the one time Goblin got threatened, got down to, I want to say it was 20 HP. There was a single bar there and was just kind of barely staying out of reach of the Reinhardt. A single Fire Strike snipe could have taken him down.
Yeah, just on the toes.
But he didn't look at him. No. But the Reinhardt didn't. The Reinhardt's just like, is there something in the sky? Let me just swat at it. There's nothing there.
Yeah, unfortunately, Reinhardt Hammer does have a lack of range in some instances, and when you're 10 feet above his head, that range tends to be not long enough. With that being said, will Goblin play the Pharah again here? I hope not.
I do think that Eichenwald actually is one of those maps where you can quite easily run a Pharah, even with the hit scan, especially with the way the roofs are set up on first point. I could totally see Goblin. If he pulled it off, Li Zhang, with no cover to hide behind, I think he can absolutely do ye old roof peekaboo with the Pharah and 2 hit scan.
He definitely can. I'm just asking for him to do something a little bit more creative. Like, look, okay, hear me out. Goblin, we see him, you know, he rocks it on the Junkrat. He can rock it on the Torbjorn. We know he can play Widowmaker like a god. We know he's great at Pharah. I mean, like, when Goblin first joined this family, he definitely was hard locked on Pharah in a lot of situations. So we know that he's capable of that. Spice it up a little bit. I'm not saying pull Genji out of the cave today and, like, give him his time in the sun because the devs have already sent him to the Shadow Realm for good for now. I'm saying just, like, spice it up a little bit. Go Tracer. Do something a little more unique.
But on the counter side of that, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That is 100% true as well. Now the question is, do Broncos choose to go with attack first or defense first? Their argument for attack first is always you get an extra fight. Based off what I'm seeing though, I actually do think they're probably on attack first. I don't know.
We'll have to see here in a second when the kind of UI comes up and tells us what's what. We currently do have that Sojourn holding high ground. It looks like that might be pretty scary for somebody if they're not scouted out firsthand. It looks like Sojourn's actually going to go for a cheeky right outside of spawn door elimination there, but they could run into some problems with that Hanzo that we can see.
I do see a JQ running out of spawn here, which further implies to me that could be the Broncos on attack. We'll have to wait and see. We've got Kiriko, Hanzo, JQ. Yes, Bagel on the Hanzo. I mean, I know for a fact Bagel's been running it down in comp games on Hanzo. The RNGesus takes the wheel, and he drives you straight into the checkpoint on that one.
I do think there are 6 very good reasons to play Junker Queen as she kind of approaches this Reinhardt here.
Give me those 6 reasons other than Plato's going to delete the Reinhardt before he can even say his first words.
Her abs already.
Yes.
Amazing headshot by Bagel onto Cats there. We see the Lucio assist kind of come in. We now see the Broncos are kind of moving in. It looks like Kel is already in on that Lucio in your backline. Bagel's going to go ahead and get the follow-up onto Billy Spike on that Hanzo. We've seen some complete role swaps for the Broncos here. We have Plato on tank, Kel on Tracer, Bagel on DPS. And it looks like Chosen is unfortunately going to be the price as they moved over to off-heal. But the price for a first point win.
The real funny part here is that earlier today I requested that we see Goblin on support, tank, and DPS in the game so we could get a player of the game that has all 3 roles rounded out. And my request of the support has been fulfilled. But Kiriko at this level is typically a DPS.
Listen, it's perfect for Goblin then, right?
Yes.
I mean, it fulfills your dreams of technically being a support, but it fulfills Goblin dreams too of being able to eliminate enough people to get pot G. It looks like as we kind of go in, Kel's just going to dive bomb Billy Spike there. We see Cats get eliminated again, excuse me. And it looks like the Broncos forgot about payload for a little bit, so Kel being the MVP and going back and grabbing that.
A huge thing about this point is so many people tend to be focused on the objective is that they will stay in camp on it, and getting through while you're waiting for those doors to drop takes so long. It allows an enemy team to get set up on that high ground and then just be ready to drop down on your heads. Instead, they took the fight first, cleared out high ground, took control, and got it past that awkward door choke point, so they didn't have to deal with it. And then yeah, you drop your Tracer on the payload. Pretty standard.
Ooh, Rose Dog getting purpled and then immediately cleared in that room by the Reckoning there. It looks like though they've committed an immortality field, though they've committed the cleanse, it looks like Rose Dog is still going to go down to Plato, and the Plato coming out with the triple kill. And now just kind of going to wait out that doorway and wait for the next person to come through.
That was beautiful. Kel, it's your turn to take a selfie while pushing the payload. Every Lucio player has to do it. It's your turn. Chosen is saying, I'm not touching the payload. I don't care what you want me to do. I don't care if it's technically my role. I will come back now after the fight has started.
And as we see Billy Spike get taken to half as they commit the Kitsune Rush and immediately teleport out, Goblin just in your backline dealing some damage as Jeff intended, or not Jeff, excuse me, as Overwatch intended when they created the support hero.
Yeah, this is a support hero, by the way.
Gob's going to get the elimination onto Cats and Rose Dog, and with that, Boise State can finally take this next point. And it looks like Chosen has assumed the Lucio mantle of pushing cart.
Good job. Proud of you, Chosen. I know it sucks. Don't get me wrong. I'm well aware. It's a little boring at times, but it's important. You're doing the most important job of the game. You're pushing the payload.
The MVP is the one that sits on cart. It looks like Boise State, they have somebody sitting on cart. Bagel's trying to get a lot of spam in here on this Hanzo. Eats some stickies to the face and is taken pretty low before they're healed back up and ready to re-engage as this next fight begins with the Dragons being loosed.
And there was a copy onto Bagel from the Echo, who's already forced back into just normal form. That brings some damage around this corner. The Winston uses shield and jump at the same time. That is an opportunity now for the Broncos just to regain their footing and start to push forward. Suzu's been forced as well. Down goes the Winston, so no Winston tonight for you. As Broncos round the corner, they are going to take down Warrior. Kel goes down to that sticky grenade, which is a me win button if you have just a sliver of health gone for the enemy Cassidy.
Looks like as we go in, Warrior is respawning. We do see Epoch 56% to their next ult, and Billy Spike with that Kitsune rush. If Utah State has a chance to fully contest Boise State, it's probably going to be with that Kitsune rush charging up the Primal, which is at 72%.
We hope we see this Winston stop using jump and bubble at the same time. That's a lot of heavy cooldowns. You got Warrior in the back line, being a Warrior, but cannot do much. Rose Dog finds Goblin. Kel did pick up one. Plato found another. That's 3 down for Utah State. Broncos not even giving up on this push. They've only partially reset a couple of times. The Genji sent to the Shadow Realm.
Genji came out of the cave just to get sent back immediately. And it looks like they have a touch with the Tracer. Warrior taking a significant amount of damage from that tire, and then recalling immediately after that. This is currently Utah State with 3 members on point. Rose Dog in a trap, it looks like, as the Dragons go on and do enough damage for Bagel to just easily clean up Rose Dog, and I believe that is final point for Boise State.
Colby, I mean this not to be toxic in any way, shape, or form, not because I wasn't paying attention, but because I genuinely didn't know. When did the Nuggets to Kel swap over to Junkrat?
About that final point in the enclosed space, and I think it was a pretty good swap for them, I believe.
It was sneaky because I didn't really notice the jump swap. It was done in a manner that provided damage but without pulling too much attention to himself.
I also want to say it was around 3rd point.
It had to have been because that's when it makes the most sense. My brain apparently didn't click that there was junk spam coming in.
Totally reasonable. It kind of feels like Utah State didn't really get a full fight that entire 3rd point, and it was because members kept getting eliminated as soon as they pushed out, so it feels like they weren't necessarily ready for the junk spam either.
Yeah, and I think that comes down to just utility usage. It's the idea of counting cards. Like, you can't reveal every card you have in front of the enemy team, and when your front line, i.e. your tank, uses both their major cooldowns at the same time, that makes them easy pickings for either the team to kill your front line or to kill your back line. And the Broncos decided to do both. They split the Winston and away from his team down the middle, took care of a couple squishies, turned on the Winston, then took care of the rest. That's when it comes down to really paying attention to your own team's tempo control, as much as I hate to say that.
I also want to say poor Monkey did not get to get in on a single engagement. They were just kind of waiting for the opportunity of the rest of their team to be able to push in, and there never was that opportunity. 3rd point.
We've actually got a Zarya pick coming out now for the side of Utah State. Plato still sticking on that JQ. As you mentioned earlier, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I agree, as Plato finds Warrior. That means they're just going to have to kind of stagnate here in front of the choke point. Zarya, though, getting a decent amount of charge because of the Kel junk spam. Doesn't really matter, though, as long as the Broncos can delete the Zarya before Rose decides to delete Kel.
It looks like Plato is all the way in their back line. I mean, who needs
oh my gosh!
who needs your tank front line when instead they can be outside the enemy spawn?
Goblin going the other. I think this was the first of its kind. This is a support character, by the way. The Moira pick.
Kind of straddles the line between support and DPS.
Yeah, I mean, when you literally have to do damage in order to keep your healing resource alive, that was the first signs that supports weren't just there for healing anymore.
What do you mean? I eliminated their entire team. I couldn't heal you. I didn't have any resource.
I have 4 golds, guys. Team, what are you doing?
As we kind of go in, we see Cats actually getting some damage value on that Pharah there. We see Goblin's skill orbing Billy Spike there as Plato goes down. That is a pretty reasonable trade, especially to be happening right outside of Utah State's spawn. As Bagel also is going to go down, you got to think the remaining 3 members of Boise State are trying to get out.
They have a lot of movement ability, but Goblin overstayed his welcome and ended up getting beamed in the booty for it. And that being said, they can retake at the 2-tick mark if needed, but Kel is not going to
Kel's
survive.
not going to be the one to retake it at the 2-tick mark, as they're still respawning, as it looks like Plato's trying to touch, as well as Bagel. Will they get there in time? Yes, they get the touch, but immediately after that, Chosen is eliminated, and Cats is getting some pretty incredible value on that Pharah.
So once again, we're seeing an uncontested Pharah with no pocket, no orb, no nothing.
He's been contested.
But Bagel said it's time for you to go nighttime. As we have Dragons online, interested to see how these are used. Are they going to be used to split the team? Oh, they actually did bring up a Mercy pocket. That bubble was expelled, but that means Zarya can only protect themselves if there's a major ultimate dropped. As we use Amplification Matrix, Dragons in response to split the team and force them back. Like I said, you can only bubble one person. Who do you pick? And the pick was not on Epoch, so Epoch goes down. We also use Rampage from Plato.
And it looks like Plato, once again, playing the Touch the Spawn Door challenge as Boise State resets and is kind of waiting for the next members of Utah State to come out of spawn. They should be wary of that Graviton Surge, though. I think that might put an end to Boise State spawn camping dreams.
If they're tracking this Grav Surge, though, they really only have to be aware that Goblin needs to stay out of it. Go smack her. Go give her the nails. Go give her the nails. Okay.
Or not.
You can give him the beam. Oh, Mercy, I'm very sorry.
That Mercy made a valiant attempt, I do have to say. Goblin was weak.
Credit where it's due. As someone who's dumped more hours on Mercy than they'd like to admit, that was very good.
Mercy's got cute skins.
Yeah.
Best characters playing the game, in my humble opinion.
We still have Grab.
We still have Grab, and it looks like
Dragons.
kind of as we go in, Kel's really pushing into the enemy team there. Boise State just kind of holding outside of spawn and getting enough eliminations that they can stay there. As we see the overclock pop is going to get the Mercy, but immediately after that, Kel themselves is going to go down, and Rosedog is also going to get Bagel. That is Boise State down 2 DPS, and pretty amused by it, actually, as Plato's going to get that elimination onto Warrior. You can... I love Kel's smile there.
I love hearing Goblin get deleted when he doesn't expect he's gonna get deleted, because you just have this surprise O sound coming from the stage, where that's how you know he faded somewhere he shouldn't have gone, but it found out too late.
Faded into their team and it didn't work out. No. Looks like we see Bagel trying to hold the castle. Ooh, Cats is weak, and it looks like Goblin's going to be the one to pick up that elimination, but we all knew who the initial shot went to there. And it looks like Goblin is now holding castle over on the Baptiste, over from the Moira, being an absolute menace to Billy Spike on that Mercy.
Once again, this is a support hero, by the way. It is horrifying.
Of course he's a support hero. He can stop everyone from dying.
Yeah, there you go. Here's your immortality. Now let me do damage.
No healing, only immortality and eliminations. And it looks like Goblin's going to win the Battle of the Baptiste there with some help from Bagel on the Hanzo. And will that Zarya go down?
Yep. Ooh, they pull out a Tracer instead. Warrior actually choosing to go with the Echo. Echo has a little bit more survivability, considering that Sparrow was struggling to survive against non-hit scan. Warrior probably ain't gonna last too long. They do take down Kel, but Goblin ends up returning the favor. Immortality gets popped from the Broncos very early. Zarya at decent charge, but not high charge. The Amplification Matrix gets popped. Zarya goes down. That's
Poor
dual
Rosedog.
amps, and there's Rampage.
By Cats as Rampage comes out, and that Mercy's just, at that point you almost think it's better to, like, you know, get eliminated with the rest of your team, because you're not getting away from Boise State at this point. We've retaken the spawn doors, we've moved from castle to spawn doors, and at this point Kel's looking to drop a pretty big pulse bomb on him, but they gotta be aware of that Graviton Surge.
They dragoned out of spawn, and Bagel's Dragon picks up Epoch because the Immor was taken down by Pulse. Kel finds Rosedog as well. We're once again sitting on a grab. My question is, what are they waiting to duo it with? At a certain point, hanging on for as many fights as we've seen Rosedog do in the past could actually be an Achilles heel right now for Utah State.
You know, I don't think they're trying to duo it. I think they're trying to have more than 2 members of their team alive when they drop it.
You know, that's also a good point.
It looks like Billy Spike is going to commit the bout. That definitely gives them, Utah State, the space that they need to at least get back on card. That's step 1. An elimination of Bagel, that's step 2. As Plato drops, Rosedog is looking to eliminate them, but with 0 charge, can't do any more than a funny little tickle.
But bubbling the Mercy did grant them a lot of charge, followed by bubbling on that Bassi. That is both of the bubble cooldowns gone, though. So that could mean a huge damage output from one of the Broncos onto just a solo member of the side of Utah State. They are back online as we have chosen, just taking some damage and trying to pull some attention just behind the point to make sure that the Broncos have the opportunity to push in. And it looks like we might be able to see a grab here, but we're also going to see a pulse and window in response. Will Utah get to the door? They might as they eliminate Bagel.
It looks like Warriors kind of drifting in on that echo. Plato's waiting for their opportunity to go in. We can kind of hear the calls to touch the point at this point. Goblin and Plato both down. That is Boise State down 3. The remaining 2 members are just trying to touch and contest point. And it looks like with only 1 member still alive, Chosen, I'm sorry, a valiant attempt, but they will be taking these doorways.
One good thing is that Chosen...
And they still have grab.
Yeah, but Chosen didn't drop beat to try and, like, you know, do the Hail Mary play. I'm just going to wait for everyone, because when everyone's that far back on spawn, there is no hope. You cannot sustain for 10 seconds by yourself in a 1v5 as a Lucio. So holding onto it was great. It's just Cats now has the artillery strike. We're going to use window to gain space. Pulse is also dropped. They pick up 2 in those 2 ultimates. So now, are we going to see another spawn door touch?
I don't know if they went that far at this point, but it looks like they're pushing out on the bridge. Warriors just running away, running for their life from that Lucio that's coming for their bones. Plato's not quite at the spawn door, but definitely not in a safe location either, I would say.
Spawn. Chosen has completed the challenge.
Chosen. You know, that's all that needs to be said about that as we switch back over to Bagel and Goblin dueling Rose Dog on the Zarya. She's just too powerful. She's going to take out Bagel with the beam. And immediately after that, Epoch jumps into Goblin's range. And Goblin, unfortunately, gets beamed down by the Zarya. Again, someone stop her as Plato jumps on to point to try to do just that. As Billy Spike is Valking, keeping everybody alive. Ooh.
Oh, that's a lost fight and a reset for the Broncos. They can grab JQ. JQ almost has ult. Warriors 3% off. We have a Dragons to try and clear the payload. That actually might buy some time for the Broncos. Rampage comes out. They're down Plato. Mercy did go down. That could be huge. We have artillery strike from Cats. The pulse bomb gets actually 0 value because it ended up being bubbled, which means Zarya is living with a decent amount of charge. They are bright and blue, but they go down.
Which is good for Boise State. Rose Dog definitely has shown the power of that beam, and at this point, it's just 1v4 on point, so the Broncos are going to go ahead and take map 2, Eichenwald.
Bagel picking up a 3-piece there on the Hanzo to close it out. Did not swap off once, saying, no, this is my DPS, and no matter what DPS you go, I am not changing things up. We have Plato coming in with a play of the game, wondering which moment it was, because there were some absolutely massive rampages that were done. And there it is. The Suzu, the Dragons, the Imbor, all used, but nothing else.
Plato still gets all the eliminations in play of the game. There were some vested attempts by Utah State support to keep everybody in that fight, and Plato just says, absolutely not. I will take you all down.
This is where the importance of ult tracking and someone being the voice of reason in a team becomes very important. And being like, hey, they have Rampage online. Can we not conga line into an area? Would have been very important.
They did do the cleanse, though. It's like
more.
Yeah, it's one or the other, right? Because then they weren't prepared for the follow-up damage that came immediately after that. They're like, yes, Rampage, we're ready for the Rampage. But both supports had that thought independently and thought it was their responsibility to kind of take care of the Rampage. And each one of them did in their own way, but because they double committed both of those abilities, they weren't ready for Plato to just say, I have a knife, and run into everybody.
Back to that saying of tempo control. That is calming your tempo control right there for your supports is being like, okay, they're going to Rampage. I will Suzu first, and then you follow up with Immortality. And we're going to actually end up going to Circuit Royale. Best of luck to the side of Utah State, because we have some very, very well gifted snipers on this team.
And with Utah State being put in the position of having to reverse sweep against the gifted snipers, they're definitely going to need to find a way to deal with that if Boise State pulls that out, whether it's shields or simply never peeking any corner ever. They've got to come up with something.
I mean, it's doable. You can just not deal with a Widowmaker by not giving her an angle. You have to play very creatively.
It's just CSGO at that point.
Yeah, it's not really Overwatch anymore if we get stuck in that. I'm really curious to see if we have the Broncos on defense first or attack first. We could see them on attack just because earlier we saw them start out on attack. It gives you an extra fight. It's just Circuit Royale is tended to be referred to as a busted defense comp, so they might want to just hedge their bet a little bit because it's not like Utah State hasn't shown up today. They already took a map off the Broncos, and they've put up quite a few good fights. That being said, you got to give them the due respect and possibly start out on defense here.
So what is the defensive comp? We've talked about snipers, but what tank do you run with that?
Sigma.
Sigma?
Yeah, if you don't play Sig, you're going to have a problem, but I hear... Oh, no.
Hear me out. Wrecking Ball.
I would be fine with Wrecking Ball, but...
Reinhardt and 2 snipers.
If you're Kerchak, go for it. What I'm hearing from stage, though, is horrifying and amusing at the same time. Goblin is insisting on giving him the JQ. And then I hear Jordan discussing Bagel, how he's been learning from the Flame himself, who is the #1 DPS currently in North America. Learning the strats to the J-Silly. So with that being said, we could see something extremely creative. And that does somewhat imply going on attack first here for the Broncos, because there is a goofy rollout that you can do on Junkrat here if you're on attack first that eviscerates the back line, gets them all out of position, and half the time no one's prepared for it.
I'm so excited to see the rollout. We were expecting Cypers, but a Junkrat instead with a rollout, you know, I would be thrilled.
I'm all here for it. Just make sure it looks good.
Make sure you complete the rollout.
And when our UI updates, we'll officially know who's on attack and who's on defense. We've got double sniper and a Mercy on the defensive side with Baptiste and Sigma.
There's your Sigma.
Pretty standard. I mean, if you don't go Sig on this first point on defense, you are either really dumb or really confident what other tank you play, or you just suck at Sigma and you're apologizing profusely to your
I'm
team.
sorry, can't play him. He's got too much going on.
It's also important to note that a Widowmaker on defense here can do a cheeky peek. It's a very similar location to the Junkrat rollout as well. They have to, there's the Junk. Yep, Broncos are on attack first. And the Junkrat is going to be Bagel. So it's a triple mine over right side. You have to drop one mine and then wait patiently for your other 2 mines to come back online and then jump over. But losing one could be a delay. There's the first mine. There's the second mine. Here comes
He goes flying
Junkrat.
over. Warrior doesn't see him. Warrior doesn't see him, gets taken immediately to half HP before that Junkrat drops below the bridge, and I believe that the fight has engaged. Junkrat is in on the enemy team, but doesn't have any support to back him up as his Moira is just dodging Hanzo arrows. Oh, Bagel.
Unfortunately, Bagel miscalculated the angle. The geometry was not in his favor. You want to land on the bridge, not under the bridge like he did.
Got ya.
And we do have Goblin on the JQ, uses Shout, is able to do some damage onto the Sig. Plato goes down to Cats. Taking a duel against a Widowmaker with a Mercy Pocket is not an honorable duel. That's a 2v1. You're not going to win it.
Looks like Epoch's going to keep them alive as well, kind of get a little bit of aggro shots in there before immediately peeking back. Knows that Hanzo is there, gets up a little bit of space, drops the Immortality Field. He keeps himself, his Widow, and his Mercy alive. Epoch does a wonderful job of falling back. There is no saving Billy Spike when Chosen's in your backline.
Epoch now just trying to make sure he can keep his tank alive as he does have to lose his DPS. Epoch finds Chosen, who was deciding to be a Moira in the backlines. Plato taking up the mantle and pushing the cart. I mean, when you're Widowmaker on this point, that's kind of your only option. The rest of your team has to go forward and make sure that no one can get that little itty-bitty window right there on that high ground from the defensive team, because once they have that control and they're posted up, team just drops down and stalls cart, and it's really difficult to break that defense. This is where things can start to get easier, but controlling this corner here is what's going to make or break the Broncos' opportunity on this attack.
So it looks like we see Goblin playing very aggressively in this Sigma space, uses the Shout to get around that corner and then reckons all the way into their backline. Billy Spike, I'm sorry. It looks like it's not quite over for them. I thought it was over, and then as soon as that Immortality Field is popped, Warrior is going to go down. Billy Spike unable to get to them, takes a knife right between the wings there, as it looks like Goblin is unable to push forward anymore as that Sigma's right there. No, right as I say that, he rounds that final corner with the support from his Moira and is inting onto the enemy team. No eliminations just yet, though.
Chosen, playing like a TikTok Overwatch content creator that I know many people have seen. Don't play like Chosen. Don't trust it. You are not Overwatch player 99.
Genji's out of the cave. Bagel, excuse me.
Bagel is on Genji. This is a creative pick, to say the least. Let's see if this blade gets anything or other than Bagel himself.
I believe. I don't think they see him up in that corner, and especially just approaching their spawn doors. I think if he can get that Moira or the Mercy, I think he's got, you know, he just commits to the Hanzo. I mean, there's one. Will we be able to get the Mercy? Mercy's flown away.
Nope.
I think they might actually be trying for that res as Bagel kind of gets out, and no, Chosen's going to laser them down before they can get it. We see a Tranquility come out, and Epoch is just not going to be able to get out there. Bagel nailing him with some shuriken to the head there.
So the issue with Utah State's composition right now is that they ran a spam tank and a spam DPS composition, so the Mercy Zen made sense. Epoch has swapped over to the Moira, which is also fine. Sorry, the Moira Mercy kind of made sense, but the Bap Zen, Mercy Zen, Bap Mercy makes sense for that spam comp, but they didn't all transition at the right time. So we have the hybrid dive comp from the Broncos just eviscerating what they did have, and now they're almost halfway to checking point 3 with more than 4 minutes on the clock right now.
It looks like Rose Dog is back on the Zarya, excuse me, as the Reckoning goes straight into your back line. I'm sorry, Billy Spike. I don't know if you can get away from the Junkyard Queen there, even as Epoch covers for you, and it looks like Billy Spike will live another day in the back line as Goblin goes down, and the Broncos are now down 2, forced to retreat a little bit.
It is important to note that Zarya's bubbles do cleanse Rampage Anti, just like a Suzu would from your Kiriko. And we got Play-Doh now.
Can't run fast enough.
Advancing in the opposite direction, unfortunately being sent there quicker than anticipated.
What a clever way to say he was eliminated.
Tried to sugarcoat it a little bit as we've...
Oh, get him, Chosen.
Oh.
AD Strafe OP. AD Strafe OP wins the 1v1.
You can't just stand still, Sombra. I beg of you. Chosen, taking a little bit of damage, still not really getting pressured up here. The Zarya is extremely low, but that Mercy pocket and plus the changes that were made, still very vital in the situation. The question is, though, is the Zarya going to be enough as Goblin gets a surprise elimination on himself?
I love that the pocketed Hanzo is struggling to deal with the Moira in the corner there. As we see Kel kind of pumping a lot of shots into Rose Dog there, who backs up into their Moira, gets a reasonable amount of healing. And it looks like Chosen will finally get eliminated by that Hanzo, as is supposed to happen.
It took a little bit longer than anticipated, but they got there. They are going to have Dragon Strike and Grab online. They used Grab before Dragons is even there. They do pick up Cal, they pick up Bagel. They're going to have EMP online. They can just EMP and win a fight truly at this point. Hopefully they don't use it now, or that's a case of over-ulting.
I want to say Cats has demonstrated some good patience there. They could have gotten the EMP on 3 and then immediate eliminations after that, but instead they just eliminated them without the ult, giving them the opportunity to use the EMP on a fight where it really matters and will make more of a difference there. It looks like, ooh, Cats is coming in on Chosen. Chosen will be taken very weak, but will force that Sombra to back off, and then Orb healed himself back up to full as Cats is looking for a way in for EMP. But the Broncos are playing really split.
EMP. Yep, saw that coming. Genji Blade EMP it, but it was too late. Billy Spike is sent back to spawn. Rosebud as well, and Warrior will join them thereafter.
It looks like this is going to be enough to let Plato and Kel, round the final corner, but then stop touching cart. With State, you got to get on the cart. And it looks like as we're approaching this final fight, Utah State just has Moira's laser beam, and Boise State has Moira laser beam plus some bonus.
Coalescence pops first, overclock from Plato pops second, Rampage directly thereafter, stacking them on top of one another. Mercy flies out, Guardian Angel trying to be their saving grace, but they go down to Plato's overclock, and we have Carnage come out to clean up Warrior. Now it's just Moira left standing. And with that, I don't know. Oh, there was Cats coming out.
Doomfist to get some contest here. We might see a Kiriko swap just to teleport straight onto the point. It looks like they're not able to do that fast enough there as Trace and Billy Spike immediately just gets headshot by Bagel immediately after Warrior right outside of spawn.
I'm all for the Kiriko swap to try and stall, but the issue with that is that you have to have someone alive on point.
And Utah State didn't have that.
Yeah, there was just corpses. If you could teleport to a corpse, that'd be rad, but it really wouldn't do much in this situation. I'm going to be shocked. I did not anticipate the Broncos to take this long to cap this point.
I actually don't know if that would be that overpowered of a change to Kiriko if there's no one else alive being able to teleport to a corpse.
It's kind of like that whole idea of when there was it was totally a April Fool's Day thing, where they said that they would let Ana nano herself if she was last player standing or didn't have anyone around her to nano. I could see it being abused in some way, shape, or form, like Kiriko using it to TP into a backline or to be already in the backline and wait for someone in their own backline to die and then just TP back. So with that being said, I can see why it's not done. But it would be interesting. However, it would make stalling on checkpoints like that where the spawn doors are very close almost too busted for her. So I'm not trying to put ideas in devs' heads. Please don't do it.
As we do see the Kiriko ult, or the Kiriko teleport, excuse me, go to that Widowmaker. I like the Widowmaker braid. I know some of the Overwatch 2 skins have been, the reskins have been, some of them have been pretty controversial. But I definitely want to say Widowmaker's hair, I think, is one of the good things that came out of it.
The skin right now that I have my eyes on is the Amaterasu skin. I am slowly working my way through that battle pass. I just want the Kiriko skin.
Cupid Hanzo.
Yeah, I dropped the money. I got it.
I think that's the greatest skin in this game.
No shame.
Oh, absolutely not. The execution, flawless. I could talk about that for a while, but we won't, as Plato kind of looks to kind of peek and win the battle of the Hanzos, misses the headshot.
Yikes. Yikes.
Hits the Storm Arrow. Plato still has the Mercy Pocket, hits the headshot onto Epoch as soon as Cats hits the one onto Bagel. Trade for trade. I want to say that trade is pretty favorable in Boise State's favor, as Warrior's finally going to get taken out by the Storm Arrow, but then Plato gets headshot themselves. Cats is putting in work on that Widowmaker that I don't think Boise State was ready for.
Playing patiently was the name of the game. Oh, my
Cats.
goodness. Chosen. That was too close for comfort.
We see a lot of shuriken throwing from the, or knife, I forget what they're called, excuse me, throwing from the high ground there, as it looks like Mercy's kind of pocketing the Junker Queen, trying to stay out of sight. So that Widowmaker, that's kind of scary.
Yeah, this is where knowing how to move with Mercy comes very important.
The B charm, that means they have the B skin. It looks like Boise State is looking for their way in while respecting the power that the Widowmaker has, kind of holding that corner. As she hooks herself up into the air, Rosebud's going to go in on Goblin with the Winston and immediately get taken down.
This is one of those broken defensive spots. If you don't know how to play Sigma, you can play Reinhardt in this corner, in this room. Instead of the Reinhardt, though, we're choosing to have Goblin on the JQ, because that is who he likes to lock it down and run it in on tank now, other than the
Sniper
Reinhardt.
duel.
Sniper duel, and we're not going to talk about what is happening, Cats, because both of y'all, you and Plato, whiffed a lot of shots on a drop in the nade, but it's not going to do much to help you survive. Cart is slowly pushing forward out of the zone where the Broncos can defend it, but they just have to play cleanup crew here and then retake it over as it slowly inches its way back.
And immediately after that, Bagel's going to get taken down, as well as Chosen. That is Cats taking down both the Widow and the Mercy Pocket there, as now Kel is forced to defend the cart with Goblin against. It just looks like Warrior on that Hanzo, and you made a valiant attempt there, buddy, but it's not going to be enough to get this cart moving.
It's not going to be enough, but the question is, how much do the Broncos just drop to try and make sure they can sustain this win? To now be having to go into Sights, Dragons, Nano Winston, Primal Rage, and a Kitsune Rush.
I think Cats is making the Broncos' life miserable, which good for them, but it looks like Kel's trying to get out. They will not be able to get away from the Monkeys safely. No, their Mercy's going to come in just in the nick of time. And now at this point, the Monkey has switched targets, and Chosen says, I have a pistol, and I will pull it out on you. And immediately after that, Rose Dog gets dropped to a couple bars of HP. Chosen now after the Widowmaker that's been a terror to their team, looking for the res in the Dragons. Kel's there to back them up, so they end up successfully getting that, leaving Boise State at full force.
We're in a neutral fight. Plato's going to go down again, so the Broncos are down one. Bagel returns the favor, finding Billy. Warrior finds Kel, so both sides once again dwindling in number. Goblin with the ante, has to use Commanding Shout to survive. Is going to go in with the Rampage, try to get Epoch. Epoch scopes in, decides to delete the tank, but Bagel coming with a double. I don't know if you're going to survive the Winston, but thankfully Plato is going to help you a bit.
It's the nade that gets them after living through everything else. It looks like both teams are kind of waiting to reset a little bit. Tracer has something against those dresses in particular, as they kind of wait in that corner room. If you're Utah State, you're looking to use the Kiriko ultimate this fight to try to gain some, mileage against Boise State here. As we see Bagel pop in for a sight, just looking for the squishy head to come around that corner.
Kitsune Rush gets popped, as you mentioned, from Utah State. Now it's going to be Rose Dog looking to try and get survive long enough for Epoch to get this Nano onto them. Chosen goes down to Rose Dog. Nano, though, I have questions.
I don't think we're going to get answers, Artie.
No, we're not. But they do manage to get the checkpoint. I think it was a distraction plan, and it worked out. Let's Nano the Widowmaker, make everyone turn and focus. And we do hear the Broncos are a little bit upset with themselves for having given up the point. But again, broken defensive position. If the team can get a stronghold on that high ground, people can play touch and go on the point all day long.
Oh, that high ground is miserable to try to attack. The fact that Boise State made it to third point means Utah State is in a very difficult position as they have to take this high ground. And Rose Dog, 2 HP dwindling, goes down. They're not taking it this fight. Boise State actually looks like they're not even going to set up on that high ground yet.
They had a couple people on low ground already because it was a bit of a staggered fight. So instead of full resetting, they just let themselves stagger onto that ground because they know that trying to take the high ground here for the side of Utah State is not playing to their composition because of how far back the payload is. We have Plato go down to Warrior, Kiriko, and Widowmaker, and it looks like Bagel is the next one to target on their back.
And it looks like Bagel's going to survive. Both supports end up peeling for them. Goblin's going to shout their way into that fight there. This Chosen is going to damage boost Kel, of all people, hopefully trying to take down that Widowmaker. As it looks like Roast Dog is going to jump in, commit the bubble, not be able to get any eliminations, and then jump out as Warrior gets the Dragon's elimination onto Plato. And the fight, I think, truly has begun.
We are at the point where things get a little bit difficult because the Broncos rely on Rage. Bagel is going to go down. Plato's going to get res. Chosen is going with the Battle Mercy tech here. Didn't find anybody, but did annoy the living daylights out of some. Moth Meta is making a return as we have Chosen go for the kill here. But
Chosen ripping apart air molecules.
Punished because they couldn't find the shots onto Warrior. However, Plato goes in the back line, takes out Epoch. Can the Broncos find this one to clean it up? They will get the monkey, but it's a 2v1. Plato has full health and almost has Dragon. Suzu's used. They're healed up. This is an opportunity. Clutch it. Yep, I'm all for it. Do it.
I want it so bad. And it looks like Lucio's going to come and support. And Plato actually, no, they are going to commit the Dragon Blade. They might not necessarily have needed the Dragon Blade, but they take it out, and they're going to see if they can get the enemy Genji as well. He says, deflect my Dragon Blade. And Cat says, no, I think he'll just back up.
Got 16 seconds left. Popping that ultimate did stagger out someone for an extra 10, so that does mean that the side of Utah State has to hurry on to this point. Finally, we have a nano into Winston, but Winston's taking a nap.
It looks like Rose Dog is immediately going to eliminate Kel and Goblin as Bagel gets the elimination onto Epoch. Boise State now immediately taking the advantage as Plato gets into fight and Bagel kills Cats as
Chosen,
well.
You needed to have wall right in there.
It looks like, though, the eliminations were in Boise State's favor. There was not a touch on Cart, taking us all the way to third point.
Payload? That actually is a C9. That was a genuine C9 for the Broncos. It's okay. Minute and 12 seconds. That's like a fight and a half. They can win this. The question is, how are they going to deal with Rose Dog with that Primal and Warrior with the Dragons if they do them both at the same time? Someone's going to get juggled into the belly of the beast.
It looks like we see Goblin kind of shouting in 97 to their own ultimate, kind of can go in there. It looks like they charge that off the back of the monkey, and there's almost a perfect opportunity looking at these squishies, but Goblin chooses to be more patient and back off to wait out the Primal.
They're planning on waiting out that Suzu to use that Rampage, but unfortunately it came on the Winston after everyone was already dead, so now you have to play the waiting game yet again as Cats is showing Bagel. I too can pick up the Genji, but instead of Bagel being on Genji, Bagel's back on Widow. We have Plato on that Genji still. Sights are up, Dragon directly down main. It's a little too early though as the Broncos still have an opportunity to touch.
It looks like we see Epoch going to go ahead and nade left. I don't believe that nade actually landed on anybody. Cats with the Dragon Blade. We see the Reckoning come out. Goblin gets the elimination onto Warrior. Epoch Cats gets the elimination onto Bagel and pops the Dragon Blade, gets the elimination onto Kel. Will they be able to find the third onto Goblin? It looks unlikely as the blade goes away, but they might just be able to eliminate Goblin outright.
You have Epoch swapping over to the Lucio themselves. Chosen finding a couple of picks. Beat's going to be dropped right in mid. We need to get a couple people touching point. Right now, if you're rooting for Utah State, their Lucio and Warrior did, but they could not live long enough, and we have Chosen emoting in front of the payload, as does Bagel. And with that, Broncos win out map 3.
And I do believe that is the best of 5 there. Boise State sweep. I want Circuit Royale, I think, took a little bit longer than we were expecting. And I want to say that that was because a couple of times Boise State forgot about the payload.
I hate to say it, but like, we have the Doc's key of eliminations not being as important as the objective in every case, and this was definitely a side effect of that. But then, yeah, I love seeing the play of the game end with Plato getting sniped.
Cats, I definitely, just preemptively starting the player of the game discussion, if I had to pick somebody from Utah State, I would definitely say Cats, because that Widowmaker was a menace to Boise State that they 100% were not expecting.
I agree as well, but we have to, you know, give credit to the people on stage.
Oh, definitely.
Who would you suggest to production for player of the game?
I want to say that Goblin had some big plays on Junker Queen in particular. I want to say in the room on Eichenwald, that was definitely a big play. But also just Goblin was not afraid to go in. And I think Utah State, more times than not, was not prepared for that.
I think just because Goblin got player of the game earlier tonight.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to give it to like either Plato on the Hanzo, even Bagel on the Hanzo was pretty decent, but Plato's Hanzo was pretty supreme. So I'm gonna go with Plato this time. Sorry, Kel, I can't vouch for you in this instance. I didn't see enough. There wasn't no fat chatters coming out from you. And it actually looks like it's going to be yes.
Yeah, Plato. There you go.
Plato is going to be our ICCU player of the game. This is where we started out a little shaky here on Lijiang Tower on Gardens to begin with, but they cleaned things up, figured it out, and started playing a little bit stronger. Well, sorry, when we started out on Night Market, things were a little bit rough, but on Gardens, they picked things up, cleaned it up, got better. And then this is where things just really started to roll in favor of the Broncos.
Oh, Plato and the Junker Queen, excuse me. I do believe I credited that to Goblin earlier, and that was incorrect of me.
I completely understand, considering why are we seeing
so many roll swaps tonight.
Yeah. And all the boys on stage are all smiles right now, celebrating their 3 back-to-back wins today. I bet they're pretty exhausted and looking to go home and get some food. But with that being said, Plato, you are ICCU Player of the Game. The Player of the Game is brought to you by Idaho Central Credit Union, who believes a great player makes a team more successful, just like Idaho Central's helping members achieve financial success. Plato is the ICCU Player of the Game. And as we begin to wrap things up tonight, we have a little surprise. It's a little different. This is where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, for Doc's keys to the game. We say them, we don't always point them out, but today we're actually going to highlight a moment where we saw a very well, I guess, rounded usage of some of the keys.
Very well executed key.
Yeah, in this instance, it's going to be taking fights in unexpected places, and this is Doc's
I think I know
play.
what that meant. There was lots of that tonight, I really want to say.
Unexpected places, but not on the payload when it was close to point.
That's where they expect you to be, Artie.
Yes.
They expect you to be on the cart.
They expect you to try and stall carts. Instead, we touch spawn doors. So that is that first one there with never take a fair fight, which means in an unexpected place. We're going to see right here on the very first fight of Lijiang Garden. Kel, jump in off the TP in standard spot. Don't do that in the future. Immediately get a couple of eliminations, and then cleanup crew coming in with the broom, taking care of the rest and sweeping them under the rug, sending them back to the spawn room. And once again, we're going to have this Kitsune rush, the one from Goblin to solo the Kiriko that made everyone terrified of him.
That's definitely where they don't expect your Kiriko to be.
Yeah, I was just thankful that your other support was willing to keep everyone else alive and didn't do the same thing.
Goblin's like, hold on, let me flank. Yeah. And Lucio's like, all right, heard.
This is my job. With that being said, as we prepare to close out, other than stop C9ing, do you have any big takeaways from today's games?
I think week 1 is the most important week to kind of gain not only mental momentum, but also momentum in-game. And I think the Broncos sweep tonight put them in a really good position to become the next Mountain West champions for the 3rd year in a row. And it also just did some things to them that I think they're going to be able to carry these good vibes throughout the rest of the season as well.
I mean, 3 back-to-back games today. Of course, we're going to see some role swaps. You don't want anyone getting too exhausted or mentally
That's
tired.
fair.
And keep things exciting and fun for them. But with that being said, you might see some of those funky role swaps as we jump into the top 5 plays of the game for today, which are going to be presented by the Idaho Army National Guard, who invites you to take your critical thinking skills into real time with more than 10 jobs offering $20,000 in bonuses and your degree of choice paid for. The Idaho Army National Guard is the best team out there. Reach out to them on Twitch at iGuard Gaming. From all of us here at Boise State Esports, thank you so much for joining us. Be kind, be safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you next time. It'll be interesting to see how this VAR lives throughout the entire engage here, because you got to remember that it heal over time from, and they did the standard window TP, but the Broncos weren't there in time to do anything about it. However, Billy Spike does go down. We do hear the magnetic grenade get dropped. Goblin, Cal, Plato all picking up one. Plato cleaning up Rose Dog, and that's going to be a reset for the side of you. Ends up getting punished, disengaged here from the Broncos after popping that sound barrier. They also have Kitsune Rush. There it is, playing for the retake as they take out Break. There's the attack by the hand. Kitsune tied on ultimates. Who's going to get the first pick?
It looks like first pick's going to go into Goblin, but immediately after that, Chosen cleans up Warrior themselves, so it looks like this is Chosen, and
Game is not sure who got it, but it looks like it's Plato yet again.
I want to say this is probably, it looks like this is not the overclock, just kind of taking out some turrets we see, and then definitely putting some worthy damage in on Billy Spike there, though not officially showing up in the kill feed for it. Then there's Warrior and Rose Dog as well. It looks like they have a touch with the Tracer. Warrior taking a significant amount of damage from that tire, and then recalling immediately after that. This is currently Utah State with 3 members on point. Rose Dog in a trap, it looks like, as the Dragons go on and do enough damage for Bagel to just easily clean up Rose Dog, and I believe that is final point for Boise State.
Colby, I mean, out Guardian Angel trying to be their saving grace, but they go down to Plato's overclock, and we have Carnage come out to clean up Warrior. Now it's just more or less standing. And with that, I don't know. Oh, there was Cats coming out.
Doomfist to get some contest here. We might see a Kiriko swap just to teleport straight onto the point. It looks like they're not able to do that.